Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you my mini Hot Toys collection. Obviously these aren't actually Hot Toys. These are 1/12 scale Mezco, Mafex, Figma, even Marvel Legends, SH Figuarts, and I have either customized them or just added custom third-party head sculpts. Today we're going to be going through all of my figures, starting off with Spider-Man. As you can see right here, this is the Homecoming suit Spider-Man from Mezco, but I have added the man-nipple Tom Holland head sculpt on the homemade suit neck from Mezco. And I had to modify the collar by cutting it with an X-Acto knife. And I ended up cutting the back of it a little bit too much so that the front of the collar sticks up further on his neck than the back, so it kind of looks a little bit weird. But I still think it looks pretty good, and I think it looks like a mini Hot Toys. Alright, now let's take a look at my customized Mark 1 from SHF. And at first glance, this may look just like the regular SHF, but I have added cloth clothes underneath all of his armor. I bought this work jacket from GPSLot. I did have to tailor it slightly because it was a little bit too big. So I had to take in the arms a little bit so they were a little bit more form-fitting. And the articulation is slightly more limited now, but it does look a lot more realistic. And I guess you could say that the articulation is more realistic now because he can't swing his arms 360 degrees. He also has black pants that I also purchased from GPSLot on eBay. And the knee articulation is preserved exactly as it was before, but the hip articulation is not as good as it was before. The pants kind of hinder that a little bit. Taking a look at the back of the figure, you can see that I've added various wires to his arms and to his legs and to his generator on the back. And I salvaged these wires from an old USB cable that I cut open. And some of the armor bits are a little bit loose because they're just glued to the fabric of the pants, but they stay on just fine. And I did have to do quite a bit of modification to some of the pieces to get it all to fit together. Now let's take a look at Figma Hulk. He is basically just the same as your regular Figma Hulk, but he has these modified 1/6 scale brown pants. I purchased these from 16kit.com, and I did have to tailor them slightly, and I made a couple errors. As you can see, there's a hole back there. But I had to completely change where the waistline was on the pants because they went up to about his mid abs. So I had to put the waistline a little bit further down by cutting it off and then sewing it back on. And but I'm happy with how it turned out. I think it looks really good. As you can see, he has his plastic gray pants under there, and I had to cut some pieces off to prevent them from showing up under the brown pants. But usually that's not a problem, and his articulation is preserved pretty much as it was before. He can sit down, he can bend over all the way. I also added a bit of detail to his eyebrows. I don't know if you can see that there, but I used an X-Acto knife to go in and add sculpted detail, whereas the eyebrows before were just flat painted and they were kind of shiny. They were just completely smooth. So I'm really happy with how that turned out. I also painted the hair to match. It's just a slightly darker shade of dark gray. Now let's take a look at Black Panther. This is basically just the Mezco, but I have added a man-nipple head sculpt, and this is intended for the Mafex, so I did have to modify this quite a bit in order to get this neck joint to fit on the Mezco. So I had to Dremel out a bigger hole. As you can see here, it's a bit of a crude job, but it gets the job done, so it can fit on this big old ball joint. I also had to cut the entire necklace off of basically what was the cowl of the original head, as the neck and the necklace were all connected. And I had to pull the fabric a little bit closer and glue it because some of it was ripped. And as you can see, the effect is pretty awesome. I think this looks really, really good. Initially, I wasn't a huge fan of this head sculpt. I didn't think it looked that much like T'Challa, but it's growing on me. I also really like the Mafex helmet. especially in comparison to the Mezco one. The Mezco one had these huge, ginormous eyes, and the head itself was just really big. But this head sculpt looks really, really good on this body. And in my opinion, it looks just like a mini Hot Toys. And I also had to modify the Mafex joint to get the helmeted head to work on this body. Now let's take a closer look at my custom Mafex Thor. As you can see, he is equipped with a man nipple head sculpt, which by itself takes it to a whole new level, even if you don't do any other sort of modifications. I repainted the hair so that it was a little bit more blonde because it came pretty dark brown. As you can see, he is also wearing these custom leather pants from GPSLot, and I can't recommend these enough. They're really, really cool. I did have to modify the diaper section of Thor's pants so that they weren't as bulky, especially with the pants on. And I glued this piece to the pants so that they stay down. And the articulation is also preserved at the hips and also at the knees. And these knee joints are the originals from the Mafex, and I repainted them to blend in with these leather pants. The trickiest part of this custom was getting the pants to go down inside the boots, because the boots are not a separate piece. So I had to do a lot of dremeling and boring out some holes so that the pants could slide down inside there, while preserving the pegs so that the legs could peg back onto the knee joint. Next up, we have my custom SHF Doctor Strange. This outfit set is from GPSLot, comes with the cape, the tunic, and the pants. And again, this takes it to an entirely new level, complete with the man nipple head sculpt from 1/6 kit. This looks just like a mini Hot Toys, except for the cape. I think the cape could definitely be better. But I do have the Mafex Doctor Strange on pre-order, and if this outfit set works on that version of Doctor Strange, then I'll just transfer the whole thing and use the cape from the Mafex, which looks amazing. But for now, this is what I've got. I also modified the tunic, taking off the rubber tunic so that the cloth one could fit over and not look so bulky. Alright, let's do a size comparison. As you can see, he is quite short. His hips are fully extended, and he only makes it to 5 3/4 inches. So he is much shorter even than Spider-Man, which definitely looks weird, which is why I have him posed in the air most of the time. Now let's take a look at my Captain Marvel. This is pretty much just the Mezco Captain Marvel with a custom head from Noda Studio. I do have a review of the Noda Studio head sculpt set on my channel if you want to take a look at that. As you can see, the articulation on this figure is really, really good. She has excellent range of motion with this rubber/cloth suit on, except for the single jointed knees, which kind of look a little bit weird. I think the detail on this jacket is really, really impressive as well. And again, that Noda Studio head sculpt just takes this to the next level. I think a problem with a lot of Mezco figures is that their heads are really big in proportion to their bodies, so they look like dolls. But once you get a head that's properly proportioned to the body, it just makes it look like a mini Hot Toys. Alright, that is it for my mini Hot Toys in my Avengers display. Now let's take it over to my Multiverse display. And first off, we're going to be talking about the Mezco Spider-Man Homecoming homemade suit figure. This was my very first Mezco figure, and I haven't really changed him apart from adding some gloss black details to the lenses. Originally there were some silver details that were inaccurate to the movie, so I replaced those with gloss black. Not really much of a modification, but it is worth mentioning. And this webbing is also from the Mafex Endgame Iron Spider. I think it's a lot better than the webbing that comes with the Mezco. This figure is super fun to pose around because you don't have to worry about any rubber creasing or getting damaged because it's completely cloth. Another thing that I altered was I added some matte black paint to the pegs because they were red before. Alright, now let's talk about Venom. This is purely a repaint of the Marvel Legends. And my goal with this was to get him to look like the Hot Toys, which is why I'm including him in this video. And yeah, I'm very happy with how he turned out. He's very glossy, and I just used Tester's Gloss Black acrylic paint along with some other colors for the teeth and the mouth and the eyes and for the veins as well. And like the Mezco Homecoming Homemade Suit Spider-Man, this guy is really fun to pose around because there are no cloth bits or rubber that you might damage. Now let's take a look at the second cloth-clothed figure that I ever ordered. This is the Notice Studio Logan Type A, the clean version, and I have done 0 modifications to this guy. He didn't need any. This is one of those figures that you can just pose him around in any way that you want, and he just looks really, really cool. I'm very happy with how the clothes turned out on this guy. This is kind of what convinced me to go into 1/12 scale clothed figures, because I'd never seen anything look so realistic at this tiny little scale. The head sculpt is also really, really great. Not man nipple quality, but really great nonetheless. The claws are also made of metal, at least I think they are. They are cold to the touch, and they are very shiny, so they look really awesome as well. Alright, wrapping up on the Multiverse, let's go upstairs to the DC display. Let's start off with the Mafex Dark Knight Batman, and this is pretty much how he comes out of the packaging, but I have made a couple modifications that I'll talk about. Firstly, I have repainted his mouth plate. It was very pale and dead looking before, and so I did my best to make it look a little more lifelike. I would like the man nipple head sculpt at some point if they ever restock, but that one is hard to find. This belt is also from the SHF. It's not from the Mafex. I think the detail was a lot better on both the grapnel gun and the belt, which are both from the SHF that you see here. And here is my custom 1/12 scale Hot Toys Bane, made from parts from the Mafex and a 1/12 scale Fison body. He is very articulated and completely seamless. I have a full video explaining how I made this guy, so I won't go into a lot of detail. You guys can check that out if you're interested. But suffice it to say, this looks really, really cool. This was my first head sculpt that I ever tried to repaint, and it's not the best, not super realistic, but from far away, the sculpt kind of does the work for me. The pants were purchased from a Chinese seller on eBay, and I also added these custom knee pads, at least the cloth part. The plastic part is from the Mafex. Now let's take a look at the SHF Wonder Woman. Again, I haven't really modified this figure that much. The most I've done really is to add a blackish brown wash into the various bits of armor that you see, just to give it a more realistic look. I also gave her this elastic gold string lasso of truth. And this is the current state of my Star Wars display. It's kind of in disarray because I'm in the process of making some customs in the same vein as what you've seen before with cloth clothes and everything. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. I always appreciate your comments, and I'm happy to respond if you guys have any questions. And check out my other videos, and we'll see you in the next video.